About 6 in 10 employers say they've already let go a recent college hire. Not because those people weren't smart, not because they didn't work hard, because of something nobody ever explicitly taught them. And if that stat makes you defensive, good. That reaction tells me you care. Here's what I want to say up front, because I know how this conversation usually goes. This is not a "what's wrong with young professionals" video. This is a "nobody gave you the blueprint and then expected you to already have it" video. The professionalism gap, oh yeah, it's real, but it's not a character flaw. It's a curriculum gap. School taught you how to perform tasks. Nobody taught you how to navigate professional environments. Those unspoken expectations, the unwritten rules, the communication patterns that are assumed but never explained. Today I'm going to name them and give you a 4-step framework to close the gap. Let me describe the gap specifically, because it's almost never what people say it is. It's not usually about attitude. It's almost never about raw intelligence. It shows up in the small moments. The email that was too casual for the context. Maybe the meeting where you jumped in before the room was ready. The project where you assumed you understood what was being asked and then you delivered something that kind of missed the mark. Maybe the feedback you pushed back on, not because you were wrong to question it, but because the timing and framing closed the door before the conversation started. What all of those moments have in common, it's not unprofessionalism. It's misalignment. A quiet gap between what was meant and what was heard, between what was expected and what was delivered, between what you thought the room needed and what the room actually needed. And the frustrating part? Most of the time, nobody tells you the gap exists until it's already cost you something. In a moment, I'm going to show you 4 specific moves that close this gap, and they apply whether you're brand new to the workforce or if you've been there 15 years in, and realizing that that gap has been costing you longer than you thought. But first, let me show you where the gap starts. Here's the uncomfortable truth about professional environments. Most organizations operate on a set of norms that nobody ever documents. How to communicate in a meeting versus in an email. When to advocate and when to listen. How to give feedback that lands versus feedback that backfires. What "I need this soon" actually means in this culture. These are not obvious, and they are not universal. They vary by organization, by team, by leader. And the assumption, the one that causes the most damage, is that if you're smart enough to be hired, you're smart enough to already have it all figured out. You haven't failed at professionalism. You've been dropped into a game without the rule book. Here's the rule book, or at least the most important part of it. Think of a professional situation right now that felt off. Maybe a conversation that went sideways, a project maybe that you happened to miss, a moment where the room didn't respond the way you expected. Now hold that in mind. We're going to run it through SYNC, S-Y-N-C, all right? Before you respond, before you act, before you send, all right? This is what we're going to do. Surface what's actually being asked. Most communication breakdowns, they don't start with the wrong answer. They start with the wrong question, or the assumption that you already know the question. In practice, this means slowing down long enough to ask, what is this person actually trying to communicate? What outcome are they hoping for from this interaction? Is what they're saying the same thing as what they mean? One clarifying question asked with genuine curiosity does more for your professional reputation than any polished answer to the wrong question. Looks like this. Just to make sure I'm understanding what you need, can you tell me more about what success looks like here? That sentence alone changes everything, because now you're aligned before you act. Not guessing, not assuming, aligned. All right, now this is the step that changes how you're perceived in a room. Yielding space means pausing before you fill silence. Here's what happens when you don't. You know that instinct, especially in high-stake moments? It's to fill silence with words. Maybe an explanation, a justification, a quick add-on. And every word added past the right stopping point dilutes the message. Professional communicators know when to stop. They make a point, they let it land, they wait. They also yield space to others, not passively, but strategically. They read the room before inserting themselves. They ask before they advise. They listen to understand, not to respond. Silence it's not awkward when it's intentional. It's authority. Now, this is the move that prevents the most expensive professional mistakes. After a conversation, especially one with stakes, name what you both just agreed to. Not as a test and not to be formal, to close the loop out loud so that both people are leaving with the same understanding. Looks like this. So what I'm hearing is you'd like me to prioritize X over Y and come back to you by Thursday with a draft. Is that right? That sentence takes about 12 seconds, right? And it eliminates the version of the story where you work all week on the wrong thing. Naming alignment, it's not about being overly formal. It's about refusing to let a quiet moment of misalignment grow into a full-blown problem. The strongest professionals I've worked with, they do this instinctively. They repeat it back. They confirm. They name it. The final move is the one that builds professional trust faster than anything else. Close every significant interaction with a clear next step. Who is doing what, by when, and how you'll reconnect. Not because it's required, because it signals that you're someone who follows through. Santiago, I'll send you a summary of what we discussed and my plan by the end of Friday. Does that work for you? That sentence tells the other person, you don't have to wonder what happens next. You don't have to follow up on me. I got this. And that feeling, the feeling that someone has this, is exactly what professional trust is built on. Strong decision makers, they're not fearless. They're consistent. And professional credibility works the same way. It's not built in one brilliant moment. It's built in 100 small, reliable ones. All right, let me show you what sync looks like when someone actually runs it. All right, I worked with someone, let's call her Teresa. 2 years into her first real role, super smart, hardworking, constantly told she had potential, but she kept getting passed over. Projects went to colleagues who she knew or less prepared than she was. When we dug in, the pattern was clear. Teresa was solving problems that nobody asked her to solve. She was presenting answers to questions that hadn't even been fully formed yet. And when her work didn't land the way that she expected it, she overcorrected with more output. She wasn't missing skills. She was missing alignment. We ran sync on that next high-stakes conversation that she was going to have with her manager. She surfaced what was actually being asked before she drafted anything. She yielded the space in meeting instead of filling it. She named that alignment out loud before she left the room. She confirmed the next steps with a timeline. Her manager's exact words, 2 weeks later. I don't know what shifted, but I feel like I can rely on you differently now. Nothing changed about Teresa's intelligence or her work ethic. The communication was aligned, and everything else followed. If you want to go deeper with Sync, with practice scenarios, some guided worksheets, and a communication log to track your alignment moments, Communication Refined, it's a workbook. It walks you through that full framework that I just did. I'll link it in the description below. Here's what I want you to hear. If you've ever felt like the expectations at work were a moving target, like no matter how hard you tried, something was slightly off, you weren't imagining it. The gap is real. And it was real before you showed up. You inherited an environment built on unwritten rules. And nobody handing you a decoder ring isn't your failure. It's a gap in how we onboard, mentor, and communicate with new professionals. But here's the part that matters now. You can close that gap from your side, not by performing professionalism, by practicing alignment. Surface what's actually meant. Yield space before you fill it. Name what you both agreed to. Confirm what happens next. Small moves, they're going to create big shifts. And the reputation you're trying to build is built in exactly these moments, one aligned interaction at a time. Which step of sync do you need most right now? Drop it in the comments. S, Y, N, or C. If this helped, of course, like and subscribe. Maybe share it with someone in their first or maybe second year who needs to hear this. And as always, reflect deeply, grow boldly, refine endlessly. See you in the next one.